want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel, and welcome to Russ's Rant in the Tar Heel Mobile. So we're about to take a little trip real quick. First things first, let's do a little safety check. Seat belt. Never be too safe these days with all these crazy drivers out here. And I'm going to try not to hit some of my yard waste that has not been picked up. And we'll take a little trip and talk about some things going on within the Carolina football program. So, without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and start off by talking about the Minnesota game and the game plan and some of the things that I'm hearing from some of the Minnesota fans that, quite frankly, I found a little surprising. And a couple of them are really feeling confident about this football game. Now, as was discussed earlier in my pre-game preview, if you will, we talked about what Minnesota has done, who Minnesota has played, et cetera, and, you know, you really got to think to yourself, they've played Nebraska, which is 0-2, and they've played Eastern Michigan. In Eastern Michigan, they gave up 152 yards of offense, only 9 first downs, and they didn't give up a first down in the entire second half. Now, what that means is that they've made some tremendous adjustments. But that's made these guys really confident. And I would say that, you know, Nebraska's defense is okay. You know, I do believe that Colorado's offense is pretty good, and that's one of the reasons that they eventually overwhelmed the Nebraska defense. Not to mention Sims is just a terrible quarterback. He was terrible at Georgia Tech, and he's terrible at Nebraska, and it'll be interesting to see how long they stay with him. But the whole point of bringing all that up is to say that Minnesota has not really played a good offense. And I had somebody say, you know, talking about my score prediction of 30-24. Well, there's no way that they're going to score 30 points on Minnesota's defense. Okay? You know, Minnesota hasn't given up 30 points in a game except maybe 2 times in the past, since 2018 or 2019 or something like that. One of them was in Penn State during a whiteout, and the other one was, I think, Ohio State. You know, so basically only 2 times they've given up 30 points in the last 4 or 5 years, whatever the guy said. That's interesting. You know, but we're talking about the Big Ten, where, you know, a lot of these teams like to ground and pound, and it's a slower paced game. I mean, you have the Iowas and, you know, Illinois, and you have Indiana, and I mean, there's not necessarily a ton of firepower, if you will, outside of, I would say, Ohio State. I mean, if we're just going to be honest with each other, I mean, not even Michigan is going to be a team that just starts slinging the ball all over the place. I mean, they scored like 30 points a game against 2 cupcakes, if I'm not mistaken. So, and obviously I don't think that they're showing all of their cards. But the whole point is that, you know, you being confident, and there's nothing wrong with confidence as long as it's backed up with reason. You being confident that you're going to just off the jump hold North Carolina in Chapel Hill at home to less than 30 points is pretty brazen, if you ask me. I mean, we're talking about Drake Maye, the first or second best quarterback in the entire nation, in his house, right after a game where, for all intents and purposes, you're going to learn a lot about your team. So they're going to be able to make some adjustments and do what they need to do. Now, one of the things that I'm genuinely concerned about, you know, just based off of the history of North Carolina's defense and Minnesota's for lack of a better term, what am I trying to say? What term am I actually trying to say? Minnesota's just hell-bent on running the football. There's going to be a lot of keep away unless North Carolina does what they need to do and they need to stack the box. And like I said, I know that's a simple game plan. It's a super simple game plan to me. But over the course of the last decade or so, I have not necessarily garnered a lot of faith in Carolina's defensive coordinator's ability to, do the simple thing. So we'll see if Gene dials up what needs to be dialed up in order for them to make Ethan Kaliakmanis beat them in the air. But Minnesota does have the ability, per se, to keep away from North Carolina, and that is one of the things that could make this a lower scoring game. Absolutely. But some of the confidence that's been dealt out here with some of these Minnesota fans, which have, for the most part, they've been classy. I actually haven't had anybody necessarily that I can recall that's gotten a little nasty or, just a little bit too big for their britches, if you will. Just kind of a lot of confidence. A lot different kind of reactions than the South Carolina and App State faithful. So, but for whatever reason, man, they seem to be pretty confident that this is going to be a game that they can win. And I would say that I'm lean more along the lines of what ESPN has deemed kind of the percentage. They got Carolina at about a 75% chance of winning, and I think that that's fair. The simple fact of the matter is Minnesota has not played anyone. They just haven't. I mean, Nebraska's a good name, but they haven't been good for about a decade. And so they really don't have a good offense, and neither does Eastern Michigan. And so when you kind of brag about, hey, we're only giving up 8 points a game, well, yeah, against two offenses that are not good at all. Like I said, Sims is garbage. He just is. If that offends you, I'm sorry, but he's just not a good quarterback. And hasn't been a good quarterback. And EMU is EMU. So, I would pump my brakes and hold my horses before I start getting too confident about your ability to shut down North Carolina with Drake Maye like that in Chapel Hill in front of a sold-out crowd on a beautiful day for all intents and purposes. That's what I'm going to say about that. Now, switching over to the defensive side, one of the things that we really got to ask ourselves is, can we effectively stop the run? Like I said, Huzzy needs to shadow number 9. And Carolina needs to stop bailing on the corners. I want to see that, man. I want to see them be physical. I want to see them press, individuals on the outside and get done what needs to get done so that this defensive line can get to the quarterback. We got to give them time to get to the quarterback. So that's kind of where I stand on that as far as the game plan is concerned. Now, just a slight caveat off of that, if you haven't already, go to Inside Carolina. Jason Staples has a real good breakdown. He always does really good breakdowns, but he's got a real good breakdown about the corners bailing and one of the spots where Carolina consistently got abused, if you will, during that Appalachian State game. And he's talking about the outside leverage of the star on the receiver that's in the slot. So, if you're picturing this in your head, obviously, if App State, or in this case, maybe Minnesota, goes too wide, or a 2 wide receiver set to the left, 1 wide receiver to the right, and that star has outside leverage on that slot receiver, he's giving him a free release into the inside. And because of the safeties, the coverage that was put in place where that boundary safety is dropping back into a robber, while the safety on the on the short side of the field is actually coming down, it's having a counter effect where you can't cover that quick slant or that real quick skinny post. And they were just getting to the sticks because the star was playing too far off. And not only was he already playing 7-8 yards off the ball, but he was in his backdrop 5, 6, 7 yards down the field. So you're 16 yards down the field, and that receiver in the slot is setting up 7-8 yards. I mean, he's splitting the difference between you and the line of scrimmage. That's easy pitch and catch every time. And so one of the things that Jason talked about is switching the roles of the safeties, in that short side field safety comes down into the robber, and that boundary, or the safety that's to the wide side of the field, if you will, that safety actually drops down to cover that slant. If you're going to play that star so far back, you got to have somebody step in there. If the linebacker's not going to shade over and fill that in some kind of zone concept, then that safety has got to be there to take that away, or else it's an easy pitch and catch all day long. So Jason Stables has a really good breakdown on Inside Carolina. If you're an Inside Carolina member, which I am, I would definitely strongly suggest that you check that out, because that's worth its price in gold, just listening to Jason Staples' breakdowns, the game film and everything. So really good segment, and it just kind of shows some of the things that Gene Chizik should fix. But for all intents and purposes, Mack Brown has acknowledged it himself. Hey man, we got to play a little bit tighter on these corners, and they got to stop bailing. And even if they're not going to play bump and run, they got to be hip to hip, and they got to get better at driving on the football and keeping their eyes in the right spot. So it'll be interesting to see how Carolina does this coming up Saturday on a team that's, for all intents and purposes, going to want to sting and pound the football. They apparently, the Nebraska game, because I listened to PJ Fleck's press conference leading up to the UNC game, and he said the Nebraska game was working on their pass offense, and they didn't pass very well. Jackson, number 9, had a pretty good game, but that was like at the end as they were like coming back. That's when a lot of their offense happened. So if that was them working on their offense, and then game 2 was working on their run offense, because he said that they just kind of set it in their minds that they were going to be the more physical team and they were going to run the football, and it didn't matter. Well, game 1 says a lot. I still don't think that Athan Kaliakmanis, the Greek rifle, is going to be able to consistently lead that team down the field. So I want to see him stack the box and stop the run. You got to stop the run. You cannot let them, that Big Ten team with those big offensive linemen, wear you down and just get 3-4 yards a pop. Keep moving the chains, shorten the game, keep the ball out of Drake Maye's hands. You can't do it. And my biggest fear is that the adjustments won't be made. There'll be some shoddy game plan, and then we're going to sit there and watch, what's it called? The death of the defense by 1,000 needles, or what, however that euphemism or that phrase goes. So I'm hoping we can use some common sense. A lot of these things just seem common sense, and then, you get the game day and it's like, what in the world are we doing? How come we're not making the adjustments? Why do these things continue to happen for 60 minutes? Like, good night. So hopefully we can go in there with a good game plan and take away what they want to do. I mean, that is, sometimes it's not just about the Joes, the Jimmies and Joes, man. It's the scheme. And if you don't have these guys, think about it from this perspective. If you're playing a goal line defense against a spread offense all the time, and they're just killing you, and you don't make changes, adjustments, that's scheme. It has nothing to do with how bad your players are. It's scheme. Or if you're playing against a triple option team, and you're running a 3-3-5, and your 5 DBs are all 10-15 yards down the field, doesn't make any sense. You know, they're going to get 5 to 10 yards of carry straight up the gut, and it has nothing to do with how good your players are. It's the scheme. So, you know, these guys got to put their players in the right positions. And I'm not saying it's all coaching. I'm not saying it's all players. It's a culmination of both. But, you know, like I said, I can't express this enough. The game plan should be fairly easy for this football game based off of what Minnesota likes to do. Now, that's about 15 minutes of football. Let's talk about Mack Brown and the NCAA's response, if you will, to him. Now, I don't have that statement in front of me. I just know, basically, I think it's the president at Georgia and the president at Evansville that doesn't even have a football program that are basically like the individuals that oversaw this statement back to where they named Mack Brown, and they're talking about the Tez Walker situation, and basically they're insinuating that Mack Brown has been asking for all these things, and now that it's affecting him, you know, now he's taking it back, if you will. And you know, Mack responded to that in his press conference today by saying, you know, the point is that these are clearly separate incidents, and that this is not what those rules were put in place for. They were put in place to keep, you know, the best players from each team just transferring whenever they wanted to, or even players that didn't get enough, you know, playing time, if you will, from just moving from place to place to place to place. That's what these rules were put in place for. These multiple transfer guys, these guys that are just transferring every year from one team to this team, you know, that's what the rules were put in place for. Not for the people like Tez Walker, who he's transferred, he's played football at one school. Excuse me. Your boy's been up since 3:30. So he's played football at one school. And then you're like acting like this guy, you know, is just bouncing from school to school to school. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's unfair to the kid. He's got a whole year of his life taken away now, and what he loves to do, because of you feigning as if you're trying to adhere to the policy that all these schools know. You know, it's just so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just so disingenuous. It's either disingenuous or quite frankly, you're really morons. I mean, I hate to just be the bearer of bad news or to be so abrasive as to say that, but it's ridiculous. Because anybody that looks at the facts of this case knows that this is not a kid who's just jumping from school to school and whatever's the best situation for him. You know, the kid played football at one school. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. That should be enough in and of itself. Not to mention the change came after he had transferred to Carolina, so he should be grandfathered in. It's just absolutely ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. And the only thing that they did was, you know, double down on their stupidity. The NCAA, man. It really is a joke. But there's nothing that you can really do. In the sense that the schools, you know, the NCAA is pay for the tournament. You know, it would be so expensive if all of these colleges, all these members of the NCAA, these universities, Division I universities, if they were to leave the NCAA and start their own thing, dude, the games would be astronomically expensive. You wouldn't be able to afford to go because they'd be having to upcharge you to, you know, to pay for the tournament, bowl games, just all kinds of things, man. It just, right now, it's not feasible. And I think the NCAA knows that. And it's kind of this catch-22 where you want to press back and say, hey, you know, I need you to be reasonable in your decision-making. It shouldn't be just so black and white. You know, there are gray areas. that need people to make sound, good decisions in the best interest of the athlete, the school, and competition. You know, if it's an unfair advantage or if it's an unfair competition thing, then by all means, you know, if something is being done that's shoddy, you know, by all means, you know, don't just let it go through. But you know, we can't just carte blanche just make these things up and then ruin a kid's ability to do the very thing that he loves, the very thing that could change his life, change his family's life. I just think that it's extremely disingenuous, man. It's a shame for Tez. It's a shame, and just to keep having the NCAA double down on its stupidity is just amazing to me. It really is. But you know, like Mack said, Tez he's probably not going to play this year, guys. I mean, there's like a 99% chance that Tez doesn't play. Probably 99.9% chance that Tez Walker does not play for North Carolina this year. And the future is, who knows? You know, who knows if he's going to end up going to the league. You know, because obviously next year, man, he's more than likely, with Drake probably leaving, he's going to have to break in a new quarterback. He's going to be a new quarterback, first year under center. And, you know, he's got to ask himself, is that something I'm willing to risk? Or do I just want to go based off of what I've already shown? So, it's even put him in a precarious position to where he's got to choose. And it's pretty crappy, man. It's pretty crappy. I hate it for the kid. I hate it for North Carolina. Hate it for his family. And I hate it for college football in general that, you know, we can be so incompetent sometimes with these things that just seem clear cut to everyone else. You know, the NCAA doubles down on its, he can't play this year. It's pretty ridiculous. So, hey, one thing that I do want to say is we just went over 250 subscribers. And I think like 3 weeks ago, we were celebrating 100. So we basically over doubled what we had 3 weeks ago. So I want to stink and tell you guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the content. I'm glad that you're supporting a fellow Tar Heel. This is for all of us, man. It's for all of us. It's you know, I'm nobody. I get that. Wouldn't even claim to be some special guy or anything like that. I'm just a huge North Carolina fan. Very proud to be a North Carolinian, and I love this university, and I love its athletics program, and I love that it represents us. And so I like putting on for it, man. And I'm glad that you guys are here, and I want to keep growing this thing. You know, I hope that every Tar Heel fan eventually, you know, will see it in their heart to come on board, man, and we can talk college football and college basketball, and it just gives us, you know, a voice. You don't have to agree with everything I say. There's going to be definitely things that you disagree with. Game plan, scheme, coaching, what is the nicest uniform, you know, what should we spend our money on as far as facilities, etc., 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 etc. You know, we're not going to agree on everything. But one thing we can agree on is that we're Tar Heels and we love the University of North Carolina. So, if you haven't already, do me a favor, Tar Heel Nation, like, share, subscribe to this content, and tell all your Tar Heel friends, man. Just, hey, let them know, give them an opportunity at least to know that it's here, and be a part of this growth, man, because we're growing. And we're growing pretty quickly, you know, for all intents and purposes, man. And we got, you know, Miami channels and Texas A&M channels and Georgia channels, and all these guys got thousands and thousands of subscribers. Well, that's what we need. That's what we need also. We need thousands and thousands of subscribers. And the more subscribers that we get, you know, the more that it's going to enable me to put more effort into this, and it just allows me to have more time, and it just creates a better product for Tar Heel Nation. So I really appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel, coming back and watching everything, man. You know, obviously some things are more popular than others, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the views, all the likes, all the comments, and it just really kind of encourages me to continue, you know, with everything, to keep it going, man, because it takes a lot of time, man. It takes a lot of effort. It's a very time-consuming thing to put together videos and to think about content and things to talk about and everything. So when you guys support me, it means the world, man, and I don't want that to go over your head or to think that it's not noticed, man. So as we're coming to the end of this Russ's rant in the Tar Heel Mobile, like I said, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you guys, and I love you guys. And hey, this Saturday, baby, if you're not doing anything, or even if you're watching the game, bro, turn on the computer, come hang out with me in the live chat, bro. We'll have the 3:30 kick. Minnesota at North Carolina, the first ever meeting between those two teams. And I think last time we had, the most that we had at one time was 19. And that's up from, I think, 14 or 15 against South Carolina. So, hey, man, let's get them in there, bro. And we'll just start doing more fun things as we get, you know, more and more people in that live chat and hanging out and, you know, talking about the game. We had a blast last time, man. It was a different kind of atmosphere, you know, because we're whooping South Carolina's butt and everybody's hyped and the defense is flying around and making plays. And against App State, it was different, but we got to experience that together, you know, and that's what families do. They go through the good times and the hard times together. So if you get a chance, man, 3:30, come hang out with me. We'll probably go live about 3:15, probably 3:15. That way we can, you know, chill a little bit, talk about the upcoming game. We don't miss the kick, and we'll have a good time, man. So, like I said, once again, like, share, subscribe, comment down in the comment section about what you think about the game plan, what you think about the Minnesota fans and their confidence coming into Chapel Hill, thinking that they're going to win this football game or they're going to stop Drake Maye in this offense. And let me know what you think about that, and share this content, man. So 3:30, come hang out with me on the live chat, and I love you guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Go Tar Heels. Catch you on the next one, Tar Heel Nation.